Matt, we have a great show tonight. It's a St. Patty's Day extravaganza, I'll tell you.
Oh my goodness! St. Patty's Day Eve in the country. I mean, St. Patty's Day is tomorrow.
Did
I
you
had a
see
long.
the Did you see the Chicago River be dumped in all green?
I saw. I saw.
That was something.
Yep.
But anyways, let's start with some March Madness here. So Matt, let's start with the men's bracket. Just tell us who is in each bracket.
Okay. So we're gonna start off with the Southern region. These games will be played on Thursday, Friday, on Thursday and Friday. In the Southern region, we got Auburn taking on the winner of Alabama State versus from St. Francis, Pennsylvania. That's the first four game. The 8-9 is Louisville versus Creighton. In the 5-12, it's Michigan versus UC San Diego. In the 4-13, it's Texas A&M versus Yale. The 6-11, it's Ole Miss versus the winner of San Diego State versus North Carolina. The 3-14, Iowa State versus Lipscomb. The 7-10, Marquette versus University of New Mexico. And the 2-15, Michigan State versus Bryant.
Who do I like in that South region? I mean, I like these Auburn Tigers. I mean, Bruce Pearl, he's got this team playing, but don't be shocked if this is a team that could win it all this year.
I mean, the problem with Auburn's going. Go ahead.
But there could be something brewing with Dan Hurley and the UConn Huskies wanting that three-peat.
There is. I mean, they're not.
People may think it's not going to be their year to three-peat, but something tells me that the number one seeds don't always do well in these type of tournaments. But UConn, they're a good tournament team.
I mean, well, UConn's not in this region, but when you look at this region as a whole, Auburn's going into this tournament limping in. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games. They finished in the semifinals of the SEC tournament. I think they'll make it past the first round, but if you're looking at Louisville or Creighton in the second round, that's where things get a little dicey. But if you're asking me who could come out of this region, I personally like Michigan State in this one.
Michigan State with Tom Izzo, he's due for a national title in his hands again.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I think that Michigan State is a very sneaky team heading into this tournament, but don't forget, there could be some Cinderella team in this tournament because some of these some people who make those brackets, they're going to get busted at some point.
Oh, yeah, at some point. They don't last long, perfection.
So no one's going to have a perfect bracket.
Guaranteed, no.
Because there's going to be a Cinderella team that's going to make a big run.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Loyola Chicago. They did it one year. St. Pete's, the Peacocks.
Yeah, St. Peter's in 2023. And then even NC State last year as an 11 seed.
Yeah, and then there could be a no-name school that we know, like Yale.
Oh, yeah, the League of the Nerds. Yale University.
Because Yale had a pretty good season, but I'm like, I don't even see them, you know?
Well, they are playing Texas A&M. Well, that's the South region. Let's go to the West now. In the West, we got Florida versus Norfolk State, the 1 seed versus the 16. The 8-9 game. This is UConn versus Oklahoma. 5-12, Memphis versus Colorado State. 4-13, Maryland versus Grand Canyon. Missouri. The 6-11 is Missouri.
You know, that's our friend's team right there, Chris Jureko.
Oh, Chris Jureko, yeah. Go Terps. 6-11 is Missouri versus Drake. 3-14 is Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington. 7-10 is Kansas versus Arkansas. And then 2-15, St. John's versus Northern Omaha.
St. John's in New York.
Yep.
I have my bracket right in front of me. I mean, so basically in the South region, I'll tell you my picks here. I have Auburn advancing.
Yeah.
I have the playing Louisville.
Okay.
Michigan and UC San Diego. I got Michigan playing.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Against Michigan, I'm going to have Michigan play against Yale.
Ooh, okay. So you're sniffing a first round upset with Yale.
Oh, there could be something with Yale that I like, you know?
They are a well rounded team in the Ivy League.
And then Ole Miss between San Diego State or the North Carolina Tar Heels. I pick in that game between San Diego State and North Carolina. I think North Carolina is going to play Ole Miss.
I agree. And in that situation, I think North Carolina will take advantage of their second opportunity.
Yes, I think they win that. I have North Carolina playing Iowa State.
Yeah.
And then Marquette and then New Mexico. I have Marquette winning.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michigan State is going to play Marquette.
Sounds about right to me.
And then in the West region, you said Florida's right now the best team in that. I'm going to pick Florida to beat Norfolk State.
Well, that's easy.
UConn and Oklahoma, I'm picking Dan Hurley to win, and I think UConn will play Florida for a trip to the Sweet 16.
That should be a game to watch right there because UConn has come up really strong as of late, and I also like this Florida team's pace a lot. They play at a very fast pace.
And then Memphis and Colorado State, I think Memphis is going to win that.
Uh-huh.
Maryland versus Grand Canyon, I'm going to say the Terps are going to play Memphis.
Yes.
Then Missouri and Drake. I'm going to go Drake with an upset.
So. Same. I'm going with the same thing you're going with.
So, and then and then Texas Tech and UNCW. I said Texas Tech.
Agree on that one.
Kansas and Arkansas. I'm going to pick Bill Self and the Jayhawks. I love the Jayhawks, by the way.
Kansas is a really well-rounded team this year.
They could win that, but and then St. John's and Omaha. I'm going to say St. John's is going to play Kansas.
I like the St. John's team a lot.
Rick Pitino, he's got that team he's got this team in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely. And just his second year there, too.
And then, Matt, tell us the East region.
Okay. Number 1 is your Duke Blue Devils. They will play either American University or Mount St. Mary's. The 8-9 game is Mississippi State and Baylor. The 5-12 game is Oregon versus Liberty. The 4-13 game is Arizona versus Akron. The 6-11 game is BYU versus VCU, which stands for Virginia Commonwealth. 3-14 Wisconsin versus Montana. 7-10 St. Mary's versus Vanderbilt. And 2-15 Alabama versus Robert Morris.
Before we get into our picks there, I'm going to tell you, one of the best March Madness games happened. Talk about Tony Bennett retiring. You talk about one of those heartbreaking games when, if you can remember, when Virginia got stunned. Kevin Harlan made a great call about that.
Against Furman. Yes.
Against Furman. He said someone for 3, and he said, God, did you just see what I just saw?
I have Aiden Pegues. Yeah, so what happened was that was the play where one of the guys from Virginia heaved the ball across, and it was intercepted, and then Pegues hit a 3 to win it for Furman.
I like Duke beating I think Duke's going to play American University.
Yeah, I think American University comes out of that one.
And then I think Duke will play Mississippi State.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think I think Oregon will play Arizona. That's going to be a Big Ten game for you in the second round.
Well, not a Big Ten, but a former Pac-12 game.
Yes, I said Big Ten because Oregon's in the Big Ten, Arizona's in the Big 12.
Yeah, so a big game.
So I think 5 and 4, Oregon and Arizona, both former Pac-12 teams, will go at it.
That's correct. Yeah.
16.
Yep.
BYU versus VCU. That stands for Virginia Commonwealth.
Yes.
I like BYU in this one.
I like BYU in this one, and then the other game, I love Wisconsin.
Oh, I got to go with the Badgers to beat Montana.
Yeah.
And then St. Mary's against Vanderbilt. I like St. Mary's in that one.
Agreed.
And then I have Alabama beating Robert Morris.
Yep.
So basically, everything in my East bracket for the second round is set. And you talk about in this East bracket. I mean, Duke is coming into this really wanting to. I think Cooper Flag. Do you think Cooper Flag's going to make a difference if Duke's going to make a deep run?
Well, I think Cooper Flag is going to be well rested for the NCAA tournament. Remember, he got hurt in the ACC tournament, but they said he will be back by round 1, which is a good sign. So Duke got a little bit of a scare, but I think they're going to be okay. I think they can make it to the Elite Eight for sure. But if they run into Alabama, that's where things can get interesting.
What about in the Midwest bracket? Who do you? Let's talk about the Midwest bracket.
Okay, so the 1 seed are the Houston Cougars. The 2 seed is SIU Edwardsville. Gonzaga is 8. Georgia is 9. The 5-12 is Clemson McNeese. 4-13 Purdue and High Point. 6-11 Illinois versus either Texas or Xavier. 3-14 is Kentucky or Troy. 7-10 UCLA and Utah State. And then 2-15 Tennessee versus Wofford.
Oh, this is gonna that. I think this Midwest bracket's gonna be a fun one.
It should be a fun one. I think Houston can come out of it, but there's a lot of competition in this one.
Yeah, this is a tough bracket. I like Houston to beat SIU Edwards. I think that's gonna be that's gonna probably be a lopsided win for the Houston Cougars and Calvin Sampson.
Yeah, I think Gonzaga comes out of there and they play Houston in the next round.
Oh, that's going to be a good game. Who do you think wins that game to go to the Sweet 16? Do you think it's going to be Calvin Sampson or is it going to be Mark Few?
That's a tough call, but I would say Gonzaga can upset. Sometimes things happen to Houston in the early rounds of tournaments, and that's what causes them to lose. So I think I'm going to go with Gonzaga on that one, but I could be wrong.
Gonzaga always chokes in the they always choke in the tournament.
Yeah, they always do.
Every year, but Mark Few is yet to get over the hump.
Yeah, he's yet to hoist a national title.
So that's going to be a good second round matchup. And then Georgia and Clemson. So Georgia's eliminated. So Clemson's going to play McNeese. So
easy Clemson.
Easy win for Clemson.
Yeah.
Purdue and High Point. That's Zach Edey's old squad. That's when we fell in love with him last year against UConn in the championship.
Uh-huh.
I like Purdue to win that.
I'll take Purdue as well.
And then Illinois versus Texas Xavier. I actually picked Texas to win the first 4 game.
I agree.
And I think Illinois will beat Texas.
Yep, 100%.
Kentucky versus Troy. I mean, I really like Kentucky, even without John Calipari.
Yeah, they're a good, well-rounded team this year.
I'm going to say Kentucky gets the victory over Troy.
Uh-huh.
UCLA and Utah State. I got to go with my Bruins here. My local
I'll go with
UCLA
the Bruins as well.
Bruins.
Uh-huh.
They'll play either Tennessee or Wofford. I think they're going to play Tennessee. Tennessee is going to be such a fun matchup for UCLA. And we go from there. So let's talk about our Sweet 16 picks.
Okay.
I have Auburn advance into the Sweet 16.
I have Auburn going there too. Yeah.
And then Michigan and UC San Diego. I have Auburn and Michigan playing in the Sweet 16.
Wow. That's a good one.
And then I had Yale upsetting Texas A&M, upsetting Ole Miss. I think since North Carolina's in there, I think North Carolina is going to go to the Sweet 16.
I think so too.
And they will play. I think they're going to play Michigan State.
Yeah, that would be a blue blood rivalry right there.
So to recap, I have Auburn versus Michigan, and then I have North Carolina versus Michigan State in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
And they will be playing for the Elite Eight.
Yes, sir.
So I have UConn playing Florida in my West bracket. I'm going to say UConn's going to go to the Sweet 16.
Ooh,
They're
interesting.
going to upset Florida big time because even though that they're not a 1 seed, UConn is going to come into this tournament saying this does not matter. They are going to play like they still want that three-peat.
Hey, listen, UConn has come on strong as of late, but Florida is just really good to play against. They're tough.
It's going to be an upset win. It's not going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a 1-point victory for the Huskies.
I can see that.
And I have UConn playing Maryland in the Sweet 16.
Okay.
And then between Drake between Drake and Texas Tech, I have Drake going to the Sweet 16.
I agree with you at 100%.
They're going to be a Cinderella team this year.
Yes.
And they will take on the Kansas Jayhawks.
Ooh, that should be nice.
Are those your picks for the Sweet 16?
Yes.
While in the East bracket, I have Duke going to the Sweet 16.
Yes.
And who do they play? Who do I have them playing? I have
either
Duke
Oregon or Arizona.
I'll have Duke playing Arizona.
I like that.
And then in the second Sweet 16 game, I had Wisconsin taking on BYU. Wisconsin is going to go to the Sweets, are going to be one of the Sweet 16 teams.
I like that. I like Wisconsin.
And they will play Alabama in the Sweet 16.
I like it.
And then in the Midwest, Gonzaga and Houston, this is going to go either way.
This is like a coin flip right here.
I'm going to go Gonzaga. They're going to go to the Sweet 16.
I can see it.
And I have them playing Clemson. And then Purdue is going to play no, I said Gonzaga was going to play and then Purdue is playing Clemson. I have Purdue playing Clemson, Gonzaga in the Sweet 16.
That's fair.
And then Illinois playing Kentucky, who's going to the Sweet 16. I'm picking Kentucky to go to the Sweet 16.
Agreed.
And then Tennessee and UCLA. It's got to go. I think the UCLA Bruins go to the Sweet 16.
Interesting.
I have a couple of upsets there.
I know. Round 2, quite a few upsets.
Yeah, because, sometimes they're going to run into trouble against teams like that.
Of course.
What about the Elite Eight? For sure, I have Auburn going to the Elite Eight.
Uh-huh.
And who do they play? The Michigan Wolverines.
Wow.
And then I have North Carolina playing. I had North Carolina taking on Michigan
State.
Michigan State will be going to the Elite Eight.
So you have Auburn versus Michigan State.
Yeah, in the Elite Eight.
Ooh.
So that's going to be a toss-up for me, who I want going to the Final Four.
Yep.
And then UConn, I have playing Maryland. UConn is going to go to the Elite Eight.
Wow.
Against, I said I had Kansas beating St. John's.
Yes.
So I have UConn playing Kansas in the Elite Eight.
Interesting.
The West Region Elite Eight.
Okay.
One of these two teams is going to be playing either Auburn or Michigan State in the Final Four.
Yep.
And then who do I like in the Elite Eight? I have I have Michigan playing Arizona, so I have Duke going to the Elite Eight.
All right, and they play.
They are going to play. So I have Duke playing Wisconsin in the Elite Eight.
Nice. I
That
like
is
that.
going to be a rematch of the 2015 um, national championship game when it was Bo Ryan versus Mike Krzyzewski.
Yep.
Going to be John Shire versus whoever the coach is at Wisconsin.
Greg Gard.
It's going to be John Shire versus Greg Gard. That'll be that's going to be the Elite Eight.
I like that.
And then Gonzaga, I have them in the Sweet 16. They're going to the Elite Eight.
Against?
I have UCLA. I have UCLA playing Kentucky. I have Gonzaga and UCLA for a rematch in the Elite Eight.
Another Gonzaga UCLA matchup.
And who do I have punching their ticket to Houston for where's the Final Four this year?
In San Antonio.
Who I have going to San Antonio for the Final Four?
Yep.
I have Auburn going to the Final Four for sure.
All right, so Auburn wins the South.
And they will play. As much as I want UConn to three-peat, their three-peat chances will end against the Jayhawks.
That's fair.
So I have Auburn versus Kansas in the Final Four.
And in the East?
Duke is playing. I have Duke taking on
Wisconsin.
I have Duke going to the Final Four.
All right.
And then Gonzaga and UCLA. I have a good feeling that UCLA is going to play Duke in the Final Four. I think they finally figure out Gonzaga. So my Final Four, to recap, Auburn versus Kansas.
Yep.
Duke versus UCLA.
Yep.
Who do I have playing in the national championship? For me, I'm going to go first. I'm going to pick the Duke Blue Devils to take on the Kansas Jayhawks.
Nice.
And the winner, who's going to be cutting the nets in San Antonio, I want to see my guy who worked under my guy, Coach K. Duke will be cutting the nets in San Antonio, and they will beat Kansas by 1 point. I almost had that matchup back in 22, but this is like my dream matchup: Duke versus Kansas.
That's fair.
What about you, Matt? Who do you have in your Final Four and who's going to be cutting the nets in San Antonio?
Oh my goodness. So earlier today I made a completely random bracket. And I didn't even think about who I was gonna pick, but I do love, if I'm being realistic, like if I'm going outside of my randomized bracket, I really do like St. John's coming out of the West. I really do like Auburn in the South, so I would have Auburn, St. John's. In the East, I love Duke. In the Midwest, I think it's Tennessee. So I would have Tennessee versus Duke. I would say Duke wins that, and then I would have St. John's versus Auburn. I think St. John's comes out of that. So I think in a matchup of Duke St. John's, I think St. John's.
You mean you have St. John's in the national championship game, and Rick Pitino's looking for his second ring?
Yeah, I think Rick Pitino gets it.
Why do you think Rick Pitino? Who do you think St. John's will beat?
Well, I think St. John's will be Duke.
Oh yeah, that matchup would be something. I mean, Rick Pitino won in Louisville. It would not surprise me if he wins in St. John's.
I mean, listen, this St. John's team has completely changed their identity under Rick Pitino. I think their defense is unbelievable. I think they can score at will. They know how to dominate. They have no off switch. To me, I think it's St. John's. I think Duke's a phenomenal team, but if they run into St. John's, I think that could be a problem.
I think for me, Duke is going to win. I think Duke is going to beat Kansas. I think, Bill Self versus John Shire, that's going to be something. I mean, I picked Duke to win that just because, Bill Self has a lot of national titles on his belt, and John
Yep.
Shire's looking for that first. And I think John
Yep.
Shire has done a great job at Duke since taking over for Coach K. And I think that Duke is back to being really good again.
I agree.
And from the men's, let's talk about the women's March Madness. I mean, I'm looking at the bracket here. I want to start with the Spokane Regional.
All right.
So you got UCLA versus UC San Diego,
Yeah.
Southern U.
Yep.
I like UCLA and beating. I think UCLA is going to play UC San Diego.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Lauren Betts, they're big. She's gonna be the reason why UCLA is going to go far.
Agreed.
And then I have UCLA versus Georgia Tech.
Uh-huh.
And then Ole Miss versus Ball State. I think
I'll probably go Ole Miss and Baylor in that one.
Oh, yeah. That's my second round matchup here in the Spokane Regional. Florida State versus George Mason. I think Florida State gets that.
Yep.
Which sets up Florida State versus Kim Mulkey to play Florida State.
Yeah, I think LSU destroys San Diego State.
And then in the Raleigh game, Michigan State versus Harvard. I like Michigan State.
Yep.
NC State, Vermont. I think NC State will win that. And then we go to the Birmingham. I'm trying to see let's stay in the Spokane Regional.
Spokane 4.
Spokane 4. Let's go to Spokane 4.
Yeah.
USC versus UNC Greensboro.
Juju Watkins dominates.
Juju Watkins is going to have a good game. She's
Yeah.
going to win. I mean, I did watch the UCLA USC regular season game on Fox. I'm like, man, I like Juju.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's amazing. She's amazing.
Juju Watkins, I think USC is going to get that win. Juju Watkins is going to go off. And then California and Mississippi State. I like Mississippi State. I think we're going to see California, USC take on Mississippi State in the second round.
Okay.
Kansas State versus Fairfield. I like Kansas State in that one.
Agreed.
To play, I have them playing the Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah.
And then Iowa versus Murray State. I mean, it's weird talking about Iowa without Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, actually, Loro, we have some breaking news, and this is something that you've been talking about a lot. Jamar Chase just got a 4-year, $115 million extension by the Cincinnati Bengals.
You know what? That is something we're going to have to talk about when we get to the NFL.
Yeah.
So I was saying Iowa, it's weird not having Caitlin Clark play in Iowa.
Yeah, it's such a strange thing.
But you know what? I like the Iowa Hawkeyes in this one.
Actually, oh God, hold on a second. This is crazy. So Jamar Chase is 4 years, 160. T. Higgins is 4 years, 115. The Bengals paid both their receivers.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think they wanted to make Joe Burrow happy, which we'll get more into when we talk. So
I'm sorry about that, but that's literally just came fresh off the presses. I figured I'd just say that.
I like Iowa in this one, but I think I have Iowa playing Oklahoma.
Yep.
And then Oklahoma State and South Dakota State. I like Oklahoma State.
I agree.
And then UConn versus Arkansas State. You know, Paige Beckers is going to go off.
Oh, yeah. This game's not even going to be close.
No, I think UConn is starting off easy, but I kind of want to see when we get to the meat of this bracket. I want to see UConn play. I want Paige versus Juju in the Final Four.
I agree. Well, unfortunately, they're only going to be able to compete in the Elite Eight, but still.
No, I think that's going to be the matchup in the Elite Eight, which we'll get to in a minute. But let's go to which other bracket we should talk about?
Birmingham 2.
Let's go to Birmingham 2, South Carolina, the reigning champion, coming up against Texas Tech. Is this a team that I think is going to do you think that this is going to be too easy for the reigning champion South Carolina Gamecocks and Don Saley?
I'm looking at this bracket. There's not one team in this bracket that I can see giving South Carolina a challenge. I think South Carolina wins this whole region easily.
Yeah, I think they do. They're going to beat Tennessee State, and then Utah versus Indiana. I have South Carolina playing Utah.
Yes.
Alabama versus Green Bay. I'm going to go Alabama.
Yeah, agreed.
Norfolk State versus Maryland. I think Maryland wins that.
Easily.
And then West Virginia versus either Columbia or Washington. I think West Virginia wins either.
Uh-huh.
Oregon State versus North Carolina. I think North Carolina will win that.
Yes.
Oregon versus Vanderbilt. I like Oregon to pull off the upset here in
I
the
agree.
Durham region.
Uh-huh.
And then the Duke versus Lay. I like Duke in that one.
Oh, Duke versus Lehigh? Yeah. I'll take Duke.
And then going to the Birmingham Regional 3. I mean, this is a bracket. You think you think South Carolina is going to win that bracket that I just spoke?
Yeah, that whole region screams South Carolina.
What about the Birmingham Regional 3?
Huh.
Let's
To
start
me,
in Austin, Texas.
I kind of like Notre Dame in this. Like, we'll go over the seeds, but I like Notre Dame. They're in this region. I like Notre Dame a lot.
Notre Dame has a good team. I mean, I have Notre Dame beating SFA. I have Michigan beating either Iowa State or Princeton.
Sounds good to me.
And then Texas, the 1 seed, either playing either High Point or William and Mary. I'm going to say Texas gets the win.
No matter who they come out to play, yes.
They will play either Creighton or Illinois. I'm going to say Creighton gets the victory.
Yeah.
And then Michigan versus Iowa State or Princeton. I like Michigan. They're going to play. Yep. It's Notre Dame and Michigan in my second round. Louisville, Nebraska. I like Louisville. They will play TCU.
Yep.
Let's talk about who's going to be in the women's Sweet 16. Spokane won. I got UCLA going to the Sweet 16.
100%.
Who do they play? It's either between Ole Miss and Baylor, UCLA versus Baylor.
I'll take Baylor as well.
You mean UCLA taking on Baylor in the Sweet 16?
Yes.
And then Florida State, George Mason. In the Florida State versus LSU, I have LSU going to the Sweet 16.
100%. I agree.
They will play NC State.
Yeah, NC State's one of the better teams in the ACC. I think they face LSU.
Yeah, and then we go to the Spokane Regional 4. Who do I like between? So for sure, I have USC going to the Sweet 16.
Uh-huh.
And who do I have them going up against? I have them going up against Kentucky.
Wow. Okay.
That should be a good matchup here. Iowa versus Oklahoma. I got Iowa going to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think no Caitlin Clark, but they're still going to be good.
And they will take on UConn.
I like it.
I got UConn going to the Sweet 16 at Gino-Auriemma. That's going to set up for some good Elite Eight matchup here.
And I think UConn versus USC should be like a premier matchup.
That is my dream Elite Eight matchup for the girls for women's basketball. That's a matchup I would want to watch.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Juju versus Paige. That's going to decide who's going to be the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft.
Yes.
Well, no. Paige is going to the WNBA. Juju, I think,
Juju's got a couple more years.
Juju is going to play. Is going to complete her 4 years there. That's because the women's basketball they're not one and done. They play all 4 years.
Exactly.
So Juju, I have a good feeling that she's going to. Juju is not going to enter the draft just yet.
No, not yet.
So for Birmingham too, who I like in the Sweet 16, I got the Gamecocks, Don Staley.
Uh-huh.
They're going to take on the Maryland Terrapins in the Sweet 16.
Like that.
And And then you talk about North Carolina versus West Virginia. I have them going to the Sweet 16
Like it.
against the Duke Blue Devils in Birmingham Regional 2 bracket.
Sounds good.
And then in the Birmingham 3, Texas will play. I have Texas playing Ohio State.
I like that. Ohio State's a very sneaky team that a lot of people don't talk about.
Notre Dame, Michigan. I mean, I know that you like Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to the Sweet 16
Yeah,
to play TCU.
I like it.
Who do you like in the Spokane Regional 1 Elite 8? I got UCLA going there for sure.
I'm taking UCLA, and I think they play NC State.
I think that's a matchup I could not agree more with because I think UCLA and NC State is going to be some matchup here.
And Spokane 4, this is like easy pickings. USC UConn.
That's my matchup I want in the Elite 8. We'll talk about who's going to win between Juju versus Paige Beckers in that matchup.
Birmingham 2.
Birmingham 2. South Carolina, I have them easily going to the Elite 8. And they're going to play Duke.
Yeah, South Carolina versus Duke.
And then the Birmingham 3, I say Texas is going to take on TCU.
I would say Notre Dame, but I'll take Texas versus Notre Dame in that one.
Actually, I changed that. I think it's going to be Texas versus Notre Dame in the Elite 8.
Yeah.
And who I have going to the Final Four in the Spokane Regional 1, it's going to be UCLA. And who
100%.
do they play?
USC.
Between USC and UConn. I'm going to say it's going to be UCLA versus UConn in the women's Final Four.
I'm going to say USC just to add another chapter to the USC-UCLA rivalry.
Why would you say that? Why do you want USC to beat UConn? Because you know I like UConn. I like Gino Auriemma.
I know, but like the story of UCLA versus USC, and you know this being a West Coast guy, it's the premier rivalry in college sports in California. And it'd be it'd be like a big, enticing matchup in a Final Four to see USC versus UCLA in a Final Four.
So in my bracket, I have UConn playing UCLA in the Final Four, and I'll tell you who the next Final Four will be. I have South Carolina for sure playing in the Final Four.
Yep.
They will take on in the Birmingham Regional 3. They'll take on Texas.
Agreed.
And who do I like going? Who do I like battling it out? Who's gonna go to the championship? I'm gonna say UConn is gonna beat UCLA. They're gonna secure their spot in the women's national championship game. And they are going to play. They're gonna play South Carolina.
Wow.
And my winner will be Gino Auriemma, Paige Beckers. They're gonna cut the nets.
So I have UCLA versus USC. I think USC wins that. And then South Carolina versus Texas. I have South Carolina winning that. So I have USC, South Carolina. And in that matchup, I'm going to take the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Why? Is it because Don Staley knows how to coach in these type of games?
She does. She absolutely does.
Yeah, for the women's, who do you think's going to be playing? Who do you think's going to be the national player of the year? For me, I'm going to pick Paige Beckers. I mean, this is her senior year. She's had a really, really good senior year. I mean, I've compared high school athletes to Paige Beckers and what she's done, but Paige Beckers is my pick for national player of the year.
I mean, I can't see any other person besides Paige Beckers.
Because I just like UConn's team for. There's a reason why I like the UConn women Huskies. I just love how they play basketball.
Oh, they play basketball at a really high level.
But why are you not having them go all the way? Is it because you just like Juju?
It's because Juju is great and also UCLA is great. I think you want that in a Final Four. And I also figure that South Carolina is well coached. I think Texas is well coached. I think that Gino Auriemma's time is kind of passing him by. And I feel like he's getting passed on by UCLA, by USC, and I think South Carolina is going to be the premier college basketball program for years to come.
They are, because the Gamecocks with Dawn Staley, she's made that program be a premier destination for college basketball.
Absolutely.
So you have South Carolina repeating?
Yes.
I wouldn't be shocked if they repeat, but I just don't have them repeating. I think UConn can beat them if they were to go that far.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, here, let's talk about football, and then let's start with the Chase and Higgins extensions. I mean, hey, talking about this offseason and talking about the extensions, I was like, Bengals were going to only afford to keep one of them. But
yes,
give your hands to Mike Brown for extending both.
Seriously, Mike Brown has been known to be cheap throughout his tenure as Bengals owner. And sometimes he sticks with the same thing over and over and over again, but it's pretty clear and obvious that he's changing his methods, which I think is fantastic because there's no way that the Bengals wanted to let one of Jamar Chase or T. Higgins go. And now Joe Burrow has two amazing weapons to throw to in a year where the Bengals have high expectations for themselves. And I think the Bengals are going to be a second-place team in the AFC North.
On paper, they are a second-place team ahead of Pittsburgh and Cleveland.
Yes.
Because Joe Burrow is just doing Joe Burrow things, and you got the offense around him for a long time. And now this tells me that Cincinnati is ready to get off to a good start to begin the season because their Septembers have not been kind to them.
No, it is not. And I think that they also need to figure out how to get off the schneid with Baltimore. So it's going to be interesting. I think the Bengals are going to be a really interesting team to watch in 2025.
Oh, yeah. If you talk about now that you brought up the extensions for Chase and Higgins, you gotta give Mike Brown his roses, which I will.
Yeah, he finally decided to break the bank, which he never does, for two elite receivers.
He had to break the bank for them because he knows he wants to make Joe Burrow happy. Joe Burrow is the engine that goes through the Cincinnati offense. But now that if you talk about what the Bengals look like, now you extended those two. Now you got to fix your defense.
100%. And Trey Hendrickson requested a trade, or he wouldn't request a trade, but he's getting an opportunity to seek a trade. Whether or not he can find a trade partner is beyond me. I think if you're the Bengals, now that you know your offense is set, you need to get defensive pieces because the Bengals defense was bottom 5 in the NFL last year. They need to improve on that front.
I think if you look at what the Bengals need defensively, I think they need a pass rusher because they can't get to the quarterback. They also need faster and physical secondary.
100%.
Because knowing that I'm an offensive guy, that's what makes me want to watch the Cincinnati Bengals because of Joe Burrow.
Yes.
But if you can't have a good defense around Joe Burrow, then why bother?
Exactly.
So, because the Bengals are still second tier to Baltimore. I know Baltimore is probably going to be the favorite to win the division again, which I think they are.
Yeah.
And I also think that what Cincinnati did is something that they wanted to just make sure that they are challenging the Ravens for the division.
Oh, absolutely. They wanted to make sure they put their foot down and say, you know what, we got to step up and win. Because his team did go to the Super Bowl once upon a time. And they came close. They lost.
Yeah. But what I also think the Bengals need, other than extending those two running backs, I know I like Chase Brown. I think Chase Brown is a good dual threat running back that can catch the ball out of the backfield and run the football. I also think the Bengals need another running back to add to their running back room.
Yeah, they don't have a good RB2 to complement Chase Brown. So Chase Brown's been carrying the load. And there was a couple times where Chase Brown was banged up and couldn't play. So they need a good RB2 to take the pressure off of Chase Brown because they don't have one right now.
They absolutely do need that. But let's talk about one and an AFC North team to another. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they got DK Metcalf. And I'm like, if they got him, they need a quarterback that can get the ball to him and George Pickens.
Well, there's a couple options out there. They could either bring Aaron Rodgers back, or they can bring Russell Wilson back, or they can bring in Aaron Rodgers. But it really depends on who they can afford. I know the Steelers going into the offseason said they're going to keep one of Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Justin Fields is now with the New York Jets. So now you're thinking Russell Wilson could reunite with DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh, or would you want to take a chance on Aaron Rodgers, who's 41 years old, and have him throw the football?
There's rumors about Aaron Rodgers going to the Minnesota Vikings, and my theory and thoughts on this is like, you know what? With JJ McCarthy waiting in the wings, I would not want to see Aaron Rodgers in Minnesota.
I mean, it'd be hysterical if he does go to Minnesota, because then he'd be following in Brett Favre's footsteps.
That would be weird for me to see Aaron Rodgers in Minnesota.
I know. I think Pittsburgh makes the most sense because, like I said, for Aaron Rodgers, you're going to have a lot more talent around you. I think the Steelers need to wake up front office-wise, because their attitude towards the team after that playoff loss to Baltimore, it was like the last day of school. Nobody really cared about being eliminated. That needs to change. And even though they're well coached, they're not a great football team on paper.
No, they're absolutely not. I mean, Cleveland is starting to be bad. I mean, now that they got Kenny Pickett, we got to talk about Kenny Pickett for a minute here. I mean, he is going to come into this situation, quarterback situation in Cleveland, thinking that he's probably going to have an opportunity to be the starting quarterback, because Deshaun Watson, I think his days are numbered in Cleveland.
Well, it's been one bad misfortune after another for Deshaun Watson. First, the allegations at the massage parlor. Then he gets injured. Then he plays bad. Then he gets injured, and fans cheer. And then Jameis Winston ends up playing better. It's just not a good sign for the Browns right now. And if I were them, I'd probably go to the draft board and maybe even pick a quarterback to compete against Kenny Pickett for the starting job if you're not satisfied with what Deshaun Watson has given you.
Speaking of the Browns, they just kept Nick Chubb for a 3-year deal. You know what? I think this is really good for the Cleveland Browns. He is a big part of their running game, and I feel like that the Browns' philosophy is now starting to come to fruition as
Absolutely.
to what is their game plan. They're going to run the football a lot, and Nick Chubb is basically the key to their offense.
Yeah, I mean, he gets the ground game going. The Browns love to have a ground and pound attack, and Nick Chubb is the catalyst behind it.
And then you also talk about who if I were to think who I think is going to be the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, it's probably not going to be Deshaun Watson. He's probably going to get suspended again.
Yeah, and honestly, I would probably take Cam Ward. I would just go to the draft board and just say,
like, Kevin Stefanski needs his own quarterback, though.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you need to go to the draft board. If Kenny Pickett's your answer, then that's a weak answer.
That is. I mean, he was supposed to be the next Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh, and look what happened.
Yep, he's already on his third or fourth team.
That's not a good look for Kenny Pickett.
Nope.
And that 22 draft class was not that good of a class.
It really wasn't. And, like, Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback who came out of the first round in that class. Which tells you everything you need to know.
Well, from one division to my division, the AFC East, before we talk about my Patriots here, the Jets got Justin Fields. You know what? I feel like Justin Fields is going to be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets now.
Well, it's looking like it, but I don't think the Jets are really going to go anywhere with Justin Fields. They might win a game.
Thing. He's reuniting with his former Ohio State teammate in Garrett Wilson. I think that is going to help.
I mean, it could help, but I think the Jets don't really have much else going for them besides getting Justin Fields. I mean, they have a more athletic quarterback who's younger, but this team on paper and in the front office, they can still get screwed by Woody Johnson.
They are going to get screwed by Woody Johnson because, the roster offensively, I'm not sure how I think Justin Fields will do good, but I also think Justin Fields can have a lot of bad days.
Absolutely.
And defensively, I think the defense of the Jets is going to be a lot better than they were last year.
100%. Well, they should be better.
Because Aaron Glenn is going to make that defense be disciplined. They're going to be hard-nosed. He's going to rely on guys such as Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams. Those are going to be his two guys that he's going to trust.
Yeah, well, like I said, the Jets bring in defensive-minded coaches all the time, and their specialty is defense. and they do a pretty good job coaching the defense.
And then we talk about the New England Patriots. I mean, I feel like what they did this offseason, I mean, we'll talk about the offensive pieces that were surrounded Drake May. I mean, I was so impressed. I really like the Harold Landry pickup because our defense was so bad last year, and getting him to reunite with Mike Vrabel, that tells me that, hey, Mike Vrabel is getting some of his good guys that he coached in Tennessee to come to the Patriots. And Harold Landry is going to be that dude that's going to lead this Patriots team in sacks. He's going to be an anchor of that front of the defense. And he's going to be a guy that is going to get to the quarterback, improve a lot of our statistics in the pass rush. So I think Harold Landry being a New England Patriot just tells me that we are trying to improve our defensive identity.
Well, I know Mike Vrabel's specialty is defense, and he came into New England knowing that the defense for New England was terrible last year. So I love that he beefed up the pass rush. I feel like that was really important to do. I feel like you need a number one receiver on your offense, but that's something that you can probably handle in the draft.
They tried to get like DK Metcalf, which that did not work, but they got guys like Matt Collins. They also got Morgan Moses to beef up the offensive line. I like those pickups, but I don't think you should be. I don't think I'm satisfied with those pickups yet.
I wouldn't be satisfied either, to be honest with you.
Because I think New England is doing the right things this offseason, but it's not really a solid. It's not really an offseason where they won just yet. I want to see what they do in the draft first.
That's fair. That's fair.
So New England, I like the pickups that we got defensively, but New England still has more work to do.
Absolutely.
But I do like the direction they're going in and when improving their defense. I think Drake May is going to have a good sophomore season.
I mean, I really hope that he does. Drake May showed some flashes his rookie year, but again, the offensive talent was not there. So you're looking at, like I said, getting a number one receiver, maybe beefing up the offensive line. There's a lot of ways that you can do this in New England.
Now we talk about the Miami Dolphins, the offseason. I mean, we kind of talked about Zach Wilson going to Miami to back up too. You know what? I think Zach Wilson can pick up the Mike McDaniel offense in case there's something unfortunate that happens to Tua.
I mean, the last thing you need is Tua getting hurt again. I mean, Mike Vrabel needs insurance policy. He needs a good quarterback.
Are you saying Vrabel or McDaniel?
Oh, McDaniel. Excuse me. It must be 11:30 at night. So I think that when it comes to Mike McDaniel, you know that Tua getting hurt is a problem, but you need a good secondary option for when this happens, and it keeps happening again and again and again. I know that the Dolphins are a playoff team, but they need Tua to stay healthy first.
Absolutely. That's what I would say, but I always want my guy Tua to be healthy because I just like the Miami Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback.
And I don't blame you one bit.
Because I like seeing this offense be creative. I like seeing Tua throw the ball to Tyreek, Jalen Waddle. I also think, I mean, they lost Raheem Mostert. I also think they need to get a running back to complement Devon Achane.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't think Achane had a good year last year.
No, he didn't. He really didn't.
I feel like that he's capable of more.
Yes.
And let's talk about what the Buffalo Bills did this offseason. They extended Khalil Shakur. I think that's Josh Allen's number one target.
Going forward, yeah. And they also paid Josh Allen a record-breaking extension.
The Buffalo Bills are set up for the future.
Yep, they gave Josh Allen a 6-year, $330 million extension off of winning the MVP award, and you know what? He deserves it.
Look what the Bills got rid of Von Miller, but you know what? They got Joey Bosa. I think Joey Bosa is really gonna be a guy that's gonna help at the front end of that defense.
I agree, 100%.
Just got to keep that guy healthy. Joey Bosa is explosive.
Yeah, when he's healthy.
And the Buffalo Bills defense should be good, but I also think Gregory Rousseau is a guy that people need to pay attention to.
Yes, they do.
And the Buffalo Bills, I think their offseason's going good, but I also think they're going to need another linebacker or another secondary
maybe a secondary deep threat, because I know one of the things the Chiefs have done, and even Lamar Jackson and the Ravens have done, they torch their DBs deep with lack of coverage.
Oh yes, I think Buffalo will need that. I think Buffalo is probably the is. I think Buffalo is going to enter the season as the this was that
No,
Buffalo. Buffalo's probably going to call this. Buffalo's probably going to still win that division pretty good, but another offseason. Let's talk about another a team that might have won the offseason, the Washington Commanders. They also beefed up their receiving core by trading for Deebo Samuel. I mean, you talk about this Commanders team not messing around this offseason.
well, the Commanders they beefed up their offensive line. They also got Laramie Tunsil via trade, which I thought was very smart. They got a Swiss Army knife player in Deebo Samuel. And I know that we know the Washington Commanders are better on paper now, but I wouldn't be surprised if this Washington team gets a 5 seed in the NFL playoffs for the NFC.
So far, do you think the Washington Commanders have won this offseason?
On the base of it, yeah.
Well, the Philadelphia Eagles, they lost a couple guys, but you know what? I think the Philadelphia Eagles are still going to be fine, but they traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson to Houston.
Yeah, but then they also got rid of Darius Slay as well as a couple other players.
I feel like they did this just because they want to save money on other needs for the team.
That's fair.
Like, keeping Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith for a long time.
Yes.
And they just extended Saquon.
Wow.
So, Saquon is a guy that is going to still be really good.
Uh-huh.
So, let's talk about the biggest loser in the offseason. I mean, so far, the Dallas Cowboys. What have they done this offseason? Nothing.
Nothing. I mean, all they did was hire 2 puppet guys to be a part of the coaching staff. And I'm talking about Brian Schottenheimer, as well as the former defensive coordinator for, I think it was the Broncos.
They lost more than they gained because we'll talk about that. DeMarcus Lawrence going to Seattle, and I think that is going to be that's a great addition for the Seattle Seahawks.
And honestly, the thing is too, I also got to realize that Micah Parsons talking trash on his podcast is forcing people in Dallas to want to leave. And if people in Dallas are wanting to leave and not go to the book club anymore, that's where they come into play. I think that even though Seattle is going to have a completely new look this year, I'm not sure if they can have a playoff push.
Why do you think you're not sure about a playoff push? Why do you think you're not sure about Seattle's playoff push?
Because you're relying on Sam Darnold, number one. Number two, you're only have Jackson Smith and Jigba as your primary option. You release Tyler Lockett, and they have no secondary receiver outside of JSN. So the offense is going to be very, very putrid.
That's probably going to be a disaster to watch in Seattle.
Yes.
But let's talk about the Rams. I mean, they got Devontae Adams. Cooper Kupp is going to Seattle. What are your thoughts on Cooper Kupp joining the Seattle Seahawks?
I thought it was interesting. I think that Cooper Kupp has a lot to offer. I mean, the fact that Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua are now the new 1-2 punch in LA, I think is kind of shocking. But you figured they would have kept Cooper Kupp. Well, now they have no reason to.
Yeah, I mean, they have no reason to release Cooper Kupp. I thought Cooper Kupp was going to be a New England Patriot, but that was not the case,
Yep.
Well, and then you talk about Najee Harris. He is now an LA Charger. What are your thoughts on Najee Harris joining the Los Angeles Chargers?
I mean, it's perfect for Jim Harbaugh's system of football, which is ground and pound running the football philosophy. And I know for a fact that Najee Harris can do that. I think that if you're the Steelers, there are a couple other running backs that you can maybe get. Maybe Ashton Jeanty of Boise State, maybe a couple other running backs from the college realm. But right now, their style of offense in Pittsburgh is very poor, and they need to change it.
And then you talk about the Raiders with Pete Carroll now reuniting with Geno Smith. What is next for the Raiders? I mean, did you like the Geno Smith trade?
I mean, you're reuniting him with Pete Carroll. That's the only thing I can tell you. But like, it really is shocking what the Raiders are doing. They're spending money when they already left Oakland.
They are, and then the Raiders also gave Max Crosby a small extension. And I knew the Raiders weren't going to get rid of Max Crosby. I think Max Crosby should be excited to play for Pete Carroll.
I mean, he is. I mean, a 3-year, 123, a 3-year extension with over $100 million. It's needed. He earned it. But at the same time, he needs to continue to do his job and not cause any drama.
And then the Denver Broncos, they also added more weapons for Bo Nix, and that's your boy Evan Ingram, a former New York Giant, is going to the Broncos. The Broncos needed a tight end. What are your thoughts on Evan Ingram going to the Denver Broncos?
I mean, he's still got some good hands. He proved it in Jacksonville. I know when he was with the Giants, he wasn't exactly great, but if he comes back to New York, I think that he'll have more of an aggressive demeanor behind him, and he'll punch Daniel Bryan. I mean, listen. Oh, crap. Sorry. I'm trying to get myself. It's 11:30 in the morning. 11:30 at night. So, yeah. There's a whole lot going on in free agency, and I think it really stems back to what these NFL owners are trying to plan to do. But, again.
No, are you saying that Evan Ingram might make an impact? Because he's probably going to be
Evan Ingram. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, Evan Ingram can make an impact. I know with the Giants, it wasn't the right fit. I know in Jacksonville he regained value. The Broncos could use a tight end. They really don't have a lot of high-profile pass catchers outside of Cortland Sutton. They don't really have a high-profile pass catcher. So having Evan Ingram as a safety blanket, I think, is very useful, especially for Bo Nix.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely. I think that's really good for them too. But anyways, the Chiefs. I mean, I still think the Chiefs are going to be a very good team. I mean, Xavier Worthy got out of the charges he just had in his off the field issue.
Yep.
But I think the Kansas City, and then with Travis Kelce coming back, I think the Chiefs are still the Chiefs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you think no one can challenge Kansas City in the division?
In the division? No, not even close.
Are you saying that because LA has gotten better, Denver's gotten better? Oh, Vegas, they might be better.
I mean, listen, everyone stepped up in the offseason, but I don't think their recent gains are going to be enough for either the Chargers, the Raiders, or even the Broncos.
Oh, I think so too. Also you got to talk about what the Bucs did. I mean, that's not shocking what they did. They kept Chris Godwin. I mean, did you think that this was the right move for Tampa Bay?
Yes, because much like Cincinnati did, you want to make sure that both your high-profile receivers are good enough. And I know Chris Godwin has not been as productive as he has been in years past, but he's still reliable. And I think that's what Baker Mayfield needs, a reliable option.
He does need that. You absolutely do. But you also talk about another offseason move. Cooper Rush, he's left Dallas. He's going to back up Lamar Jackson. What are your thoughts on that?
I saw that, and I was very surprised because the Cowboys are basically just forking away everything now with no sort of foundation.
And you're saying there's no foundation because they're just being cheap with their free agents.
Yes.
And then going to your New York Giants, 3 days ago, the Giants have requested, or the Giants are setting up a meeting to meet Joe Flacco. The Giants are one of these teams that need a quarterback. What are your thoughts on potentially having Joe Flacco on the New York Giants?
It's not going to really do anything because Aaron Rodgers or Joe Flacco is like past his prime at this point. I know he won the Super Bowl ring in Baltimore, but like that was back in 2012. Joe Flacco is past his heyday at this point, and I think he could be a good backup at this stage of his career, but nowhere near being a starter.
And then the Colts. They got your boy Daniel Jones to compete with Anthony Richardson for the starting job. But who I think is going to be the starting quarterback in Indy, I'm still going with Anthony Richardson. I still
Agreed.
believe in him. I still think that he can be the franchise guy for the Indianapolis Colts. I still think the Colts, when he's right, the Colts are going to be a scary team.
I love what the Indianapolis Colts did this offseason. And I know one of the things they did was they wanted to put pressure on Anthony Richardson. They did sign Daniel Jones to a one-year contract. Indy can be sneaky good. I'm just waiting to see what Anthony Richardson can do at his fullest.
Yes, he's got to do something in his fullest here, but the Chargers also got back Mike Williams. What were your thoughts on the Chargers bringing back Mike Williams?
I mean, the Chargers have a really prolific offense. I think the last thing they wanted to do was give up a big playmaker and go to somewhere else by leaving them hanging for hostage. So I think Cincinnati's finally being more aggressive, and I think that this will pay off.
Oh, you're absolutely right about that. But you also talk about Kyle Juszczyk, who was released by the 49ers. Now he's back. Do
Oh,
you
boy.
think that this was the right move for the San Francisco 49ers?
I think it was. Kyle Juszczyk is one of their better blockers of all time.
Will Brandon Ayuk be traded?
Yes.
And where to? Where do you think he goes?
Where does
Brandon Ayuk go?
I was at the Patriots.
Why do you think he might be a fit for the New England Patriots?
Because the Patriots, like I mentioned before, they're looking for a sharp number one receiver. And I think Brandon Ayuk offers all the tools. Plus, the Patriots have their eye on a couple of receivers in the draft. So if they want to start over with the receiving core, they could absolutely do that.
They absolutely can. But anyways, let's talk about the fun stuff. I didn't think we talked about this in baseball yet.
Okay.
Picking our awards this season.
We did not talk about that, no.
We only did our division picks, but let's talk about our awards because opening day in Tokyo is just a couple days away where the Dodgers will begin the regular season with the Chicago Cubs. Let's start with National League Rookie of the Year. Last year, it was Paul Skeens. I think this pick for me is going to be very easy. And my pick for National League Rookie of the Year will go to Roki Sasaki.
I like Roki Sasaki too. I think that he showed a lot of promise in training camp, and I think that he's going to showcase his skills even more in the regular season.
He will be making his first Major League start against the Cubs on Tuesday in the Tokyo Dome.
Yes.
And then let's go to the American League side. I mean, last year was Luis Gil. I'm picking a Yankee to win AL Rookie of the Year, and that is going to be Jason Dominguez.
I mean, Dominguez has been swinging the bat really well in spring training. I think his defense did improve a lot since Alex Verdugo left. I think maybe we could see something from this kid.
Oh, yeah. I think we're going to see something in this. But speaking of the Yankees real quick, I know that they are going to be without Garrett Cole and Luis Gil for a while. Especially Gil's going to be out for at least the first couple months of the season due to a shoulder injury. Garrett Cole is going to have Tommy John.
Mm-hmm.
Losing Garrett Cole, I think, is a blow to this New York Yankees rotation.
Oh, no doubt about it. It's one of their aces that they've spent and invested a lot of money into. I mean, one thing I will tell you right now is that when it comes to Garrett Cole and Luis Gil, other guys in the rotation have to step up. I mean, Marcus Stroman was threatened to be traded. Now he has to suck it up for the season and kind of just do well in the rotation. That's all Marcus Stroman can do. I did hear rumors about Sandy Alcantara being on the trade block for the Yankees, but that's only if Brian Cashman wants to.
I just don't think Brian Cashman will do that. He's going to just go with what he has. I think Max Fried is probably going to be a guy that's going to step up and be the number one guy in Garrett Cole's absence.
Yes, I agree.
So we both have Sasaki and Dominguez as Rookie of the Year winners.
Yes.
And then we go to Managers of the Year. My pick for AL Manager of the Year, I think, is going to be a guy that I really think has done a great job with this team, even without Josh Naylor. I mean, this guy could win. I mean, Stephen Vogt could win back-to-back Manager of the Year awards. Brandon Hyde is definitely in the mix. Alex Cora is definitely in the mix. I didn't want to say our guy Aaron Boone because Aaron Boone is just
No.
a manager that just makes wrong decisions at times.
Yeah.
But my pick for AL Manager of the Year is going to be a guy that, I think my pick for AL Manager of the Year, I mean, I know that they pick the same guys every year, but I'm going to go with Alex Cora of the Boston Red Sox.
I like this pick, and I agree. And the reason why I agree is because Boston has a lot of pieces that they put together this offseason, and they look really good on paper. And I believe that the Red Sox have a really strong chance to win the division, especially with Yeel out, with Cole out, and with Giancarlo Stanton out for a little bit.
Well, if you talk about the Red Sox, Rafael Devers, there was rumors about him requesting a trade, but I don't think him requesting a trade was not true.
I agree.
I think he is going to play whatever is needed. I think Rafael Devers will probably be DH. I think Alex Bregman is probably going to move over to third base.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Alex scores my pick for AL Manager of the Year. This is an easy pick for me who I want to be the NL Manager of the Year. I think he's due for another one. So Alex Cora was a former Dodger, and I'm going to go Dave Roberts as my NL Manager of the Year.
I'm going to say Terry Francona because I think one of the things that we've talked about on this show before is how we think the Cincinnati Reds can be a surprise team this year in Major League Baseball. And sometimes you don't have to be the best manager in the league or on the best team in the league to win Manager of the Year. Sometimes it has to be a dramatic improvement. And the Cincinnati Reds, we have high expectations that they can have a winning season and maybe even make the playoffs. If Terry Francona can take this young squad and make it and turn it into a winning culture, I think that is deserving of the honor of Manager of the Year on the National League side.
Yeah, I think you go with whatchamacallit. I think I'm gonna pick whatchamacallit. I'm picking. I picked Dave Roberts. I think Terry Francona is not a bad pick at all, just because the Reds needed a experienced voice in their locker room.
Yes.
So anyways, I think Terry Francona is going to turn around the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, I have faith that he will do that.
Now for Cy Young Award. Let's start with the American League side. I mean, Tariq Skubal won it last year. He had a great season. I'm going to say he wins another one. He's going to go back to back.
I can't see any other pitcher that's as good or as dominant in the field of the American League as Tariq Skubal. I think he goes back to back.
And then for National League Cy Young Award, it's Chris Sale just had a season to remember.
He did.
But my pick for Cy Young Award is going to be a Dodger again. And my pick for NL Cy Young Award will go to Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Yamamoto is good, but I think that there's a couple other pitchers. Like I like Jordan Montgomery to come out of there and maybe win the award for the Diamondbacks. I also like Paul Skeens could win for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think that's the name that not a lot of people are talking about. I think it's all going to depend on how well the teams do. The problem with Paul Skeens is that the Pirates are a disaster for the most part.
So you're saying you're going to pick Paul Skeens?
Yes.
Because he won Rookie of the Year, and he probably will win Cy Young.
Agreed.
And now for the MVP. My pick for AL MVP is between 3 or 4 guys. Aaron Judge, Mike Trout when healthy, Gunnar Henderson of the Baltimore Orioles, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Aaron Judge. I said Aaron Judge.
Yeah, you did.
I also going to say I'm going to throw in Rafael Devers in there too. And I'm also going to throw in Julio Rodriguez of the Seattle Mariners. If he if he starts off really well. So I think I'm going to go with Mike Trout of the LA Angels because even though he's on a bad team, I think he's got to win an MVP award to kind of cement himself to
Yes,
still show that he's still good. I still think he's got it.
I agree with you.
He will win another MVP award on a team that is not going to make the playoffs, and I could see that in Mike Trout.
Yes, I agree.
And who do you have as your AL MVP?
I have Bobby Witt Jr. winning it. I think he
Ooh.
came so close to passing Aaron Judge for that MVP award last year. And the Royals are on paper looking really good for what 2025 is about to bring them. I think Bobby Witt Jr. continues.
So you're saying is that Bobby Witt Jr., because I also forgot to mention him because the AL MVP race is going to be intense.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's going to be a lot of candidates, but there can only be only 3 finalists.
Yep, that's how it goes.
For NL MVP, I think it's going to come down to a lot of guys. Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Shohei Ohtani, Ketel Marte, Fernando Tatis Jr., and also Paul Skeens will be in that conversation too. I mean, you know where I'm going to go with this and who I want to be my NL MVP. I know Mookie Betts and Bryce Harper will be in the conversation as well, along with Ronald Acuna Jr. and also Matt Olson. My pick for NL MVP is going to be Shohei Ohtani again.
I mean, there's really no other option. I mean, I love what Juan Soto is doing for the Mets in spring training. He's putting together phenomenal at-bats, but no one is worth the amount of money that Ben Johnson has got. Not even Shohei Ohtani, who's close to what who's close to superior to any other athlete.
So who wins MVP for the NL? Who do you have?
Ohtani.
I think who will finish second in the race will be Juan Soto.
Yes.
And then the third place will be, I think the third place guy will be, I'm going to say Ronald Acuna Jr.
Interesting.
Because I think Acuna is going to have a comeback season that we are all going to witness.
I like that too.
And then in the AL, so I have Mike Trout winning it. Second place will be Aaron Judge.
Yes.
And in third place will be Bobby Witt Jr.
I just think Bobby Witt Jr. is a young stud. That's why I have him winning the MVP.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Royals are paying him franchise player money. Even though he did get hit by the pitch in a spring training game.
Yes.
You still saw thank God that he's not going to be missing any time.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. It could have been way worse.
It could have been, but it didn't look as bad as what people thought.
No.
So, anyways, we'll talk about the Tokyo series. It looks like Mookie Betts is not going to be playing. I mean, that's okay. He's sick right now.
Yeah, you gotta respect the fact that he's sick. I think even without Mookie Betts for the Tokyo series, I think the Dodgers will be just fine without him.
I think we need him for our home opener.
Agreed. Yeah, domestic home opener.
I think he will rest for that, which is the reason why. And I think the Dodgers are debating if they're going to send him home early.
Yeah.
So, anyways, now we talk about your reaction. I don't know if you talked about your reaction on Garrett Cole being out for the season.
I did.
Why do you think this is a big blow for the Yankees?
Because the Yankees rotation is now depleted. You're not going to have Luis Gil for 3 months. You're not going to have Cole for this year and maybe even part of next year. Stanton is, depleted. There's just like a lot is hurt with elbow surgery, and he's going to try and get some type of accelerated surgery to help him recuperate, which doesn't always work all the time. The Yankees are coming off of a season where they went to the World Series, and they need to do one thing, and that one thing is to be aggressive at the deadline in July and make some last-minute free agency deals, and Brian Cashman has done none of that.
Why do you think Brian Cashman has not done anything? I mean, the Yankees look like they can be better because he got Cody Bellinger, he got Max Fried. He was very strategic this offseason.
Yeah, no. I mentioned the whole work smarter, not harder phase, and he's done that. You didn't bring Juan Soto back? Fine. Just get rid of better every position. But now you see things don't go as planned. You're not going to have Cole this year and possibly no Stanton. You need to sign guys now to help an urgent need. And either Cashman or Hal Steinbrenner are going to be cheap about it and say, okay, I think we did everything we have to. We took a couple blows, but we'll be okay. And that's not how you should react.
Well, and then you also talk about I mean, not only that, I mean, the New York Yankees should be fine, but people are already saying that they're going to be done.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because the World Series hangover strikes again.
No, it's not striking the Dodgers.
Well, usually the hangover strikes those who lose the World Series.
So anyways, here now, also for the Dodgers here, they're playing Tuesday and Wednesday for the Tokyo series. Do you think the Dodgers sweep the Cubs in that, or do you think the Dodgers and the Cubs both win one?
I think it's an easy sweep. I know last year when the Dodgers went to the Tokyo series, they split with the Padres. I think they take 2-0 here.
Why do you think that? Is it because the Cubs are just not well equipped?
Yes, exactly. That's why.
Well, anyways, man, I know you're tired. We'll just end the show here, and you have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
What train did you take